Mathematics for grade 8. Chapter 1, Rational number. How to use operations on the set of rational number. We discussed on multiplication of rational number. So on the previous lesson, we discussed how to use addition, subtraction, the two operations on the set of rational number. So on this lesson, we discussed how to use multiplication on the set of rational number. Okay, if A, B, and C are rational number, if A, B, C are numbers from the set of rational number, then A times B, which is equivalent to C, means the way how to call it, A is factor, B is factor, and C is said to be product. So A and B are the factor of C. We can say like this: A and B are the factor of C. That is why A and B are factors, and C is the product of A and B. On this explanation, we can see P over Q. So we discussed how to call it P as a numerator and Q as a denominator, but P and Q are integers. So Q must be different from 0. So we can call it P over Q is rational number. So if it is rational number, a number having numerators and denominator. ስለዚህ እዚህ ጋር አሁን እነዚህ A, B እና C ከራሽናል ነምበር አባል ቢሆኑ ወይም ከራሽናል ነምበር ውስጥ የተዘረዘሩ ቁጥሮች ቢሆኑ A ሲባዛ B እኩል ይሆናል C። ሲን ማን ብለን እንጠራታለን? ፕሮዳክት ወይም ብዜት ብለን የምንጠራው ነው። A እና B ደግሞ ተባዢዎች ናቸው። A እና B ተባዝተው ነው ሲን የሚሰጡን ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ A ጊዜ B ወይንም B ጊዜ A ማለት ስለምንችል A እና B ሁለቱም ብዜቶች ናቸው ወይም ፋክተር ብለን እንጠራቸዋለን። ሲ ደግሞ የሁለቱ ብዜት ነው ወይንም ፕሮዳክት ነው ብለን እንጠራዋለን ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ይህ ስያሜ ብዙ ጊዜ የቃላት ፕሮብሌም ሲሰጠን የምንሰራበት ነው ማለት። ስለዚህ we can use the name of A, B and C during the statement problem. So don't forget the way of naming A, B and C during multiplication. Multiplying rational numbers. Let A over B and C over D are rational number. That means if it is rational number, a number can be explained as having numerators and denominator. A over B times C over D. So the result, the product will be what? The product of A over B and C over D will be multiply the numerators A times C and multiply the denominators B times D. Or we can also write like this. We can use dot in terms of multiplication. So A dot C means A times C over B dot D or B times D. But B and D must be different from 0. This is a restriction. With the absence of this restriction, this expression is not always true. So we can use this rule for multiplying two given fractions or two given rational numbers. Example, try to find the product of 3 over 5 and 2 over 4. So according to the given expression as a formula, so the two rational number have numerators and denominators. So according to the rule, multiply the numerators and the denominators. So 3 times 2 and the denominator is 5 times 4. So 3 times 2 is 6 is the value of the numerator and 5 times 4 is the value of denominator. So the two numbers now, look, the numerators and the denominators are a multiple of 2. So it is the highest term of one fraction number. So don't forget to reduce into the lowest term. So 6 over 2 and 20 over 2. 6 over 2 is 3. 20 over 2 is 10. So 3 over 10 is the lowest term of the 6 over 20. So we can accept 3/10 is the product of 3/5 and 2/4 ስለዚህ 2/3 እና 2/4 ብዜታቸውን አሳዩ ነው የሚለው ጥያቄው። ይሄን ለመስራት በማባዛት ህግ ላይ ምንድነው ያየነው? ለአልን በቀጥታ እናበዛለን፣ ታህቶቻቸውን እናበዛለን ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ለአልና ታህትን ለየብቻ ብዝተን እናገኘው ውጤት ለተሰጠን ክፍልፋይ ብዜታቸው ነው ማለት። ስለዚህ እዚህ ጋር 3/5 ሲባዛ 2/4 ነው። ለአላቸው 3 ጊዜ 2 ታህታቸው 5 ጊዜ 4 እኩል ይሆናል 3 ጊዜ 2 6 ነው። 5 ጊዜ 4 20 ነው። 6/20 ይሰጠናል። 6/20 ደግሞ የሆነ ክፍልፋይ ከፍተኛ ቃል ነው። ስለዚህ ምን ጊዜ መርሳት የሌለብን ከፍተኛ ቃል ከሆነ ወደ ዝቅተኛ ቃል መቀየር እንዳለበት መርሳት የለብንም። ስለዚህ 6/20 ሁለቱም ለአሉም ታህቱም የሁለት ብዜቶች ናቸው። ስለዚህ 6 ሲካፈል ለ2 20 ሲካፈል ለ2 አድርገን 6 ለ2 3 20 ለ2 10 ስለዚህ 3/10 ዝቅተኛ ቃል ነው ማለት ነው። የማን የ3/20 ስለዚህ 3/10 የ3/5 እና የ2/4 ብዜት ነው ብለን እንወስዳለን። multiplication of sign negative and positive ስለዚህ በማብዛት ጊዜ እንዴት ፖዚቲቭ እና ኔጌቲቭን ውጤታቸውን እናሳያለን። ምክንያቱም ቁጥሮች ፖዚቲቭ ምልክት ይኖራቸዋል፣ ቁጥሮች እንዲሁም የኔጌቲቭ ምልክት ይኖራቸዋል። so how to use the sign product during multiplication. Number 1, if two factors are positive and the product must have positive. For example, look, +4 times +4, that means we can avoid +4 times 5. In terms of writing plus sign, just we can avoid. So internally we can accept as there is a plus sign beside 4 or beside 5. So just simply without writing the positive sign, we can write 4 times 5, which is equivalent to 20. You see, plus times plus. First, we can multiply the sign. Positive times positive is positive, and 4 times 5 is 20. So the result is positive 20. Second, if the sign of the first factor is positive and the second factor is negative, and if we multiply positive times negative is negative, so the product must be negative. For example, positive 4 times negative 5. First multiply the sign. Positive times negative is negative. 4 times 5 is 20. So the product is negative 20. So like this, we can use the sign product during showing the product of two given rational number. Number 3, negative times positive, which is equivalent to negative. So student, put in your mind this rule. Always we can use the sign product during multiplication. So negative times positive is negative. So 4 times 5 is 20. So the product is negative 20. Number 4, if both factors are negative, their product will be positive. For example, negative 4 times negative 5. The product of negative times negative is positive, and 4 times 5 is 20. So the product of negative 4 and negative 5 is positive 20. So like this, we can use the sign product of the rational number and we can decide the sign of the product. ስለዚህ ይህንን የሳይን የምልክቶችን ብዜት የፖዚቲቭ እና የኔጌቲቭ ብዜቶችን በማየት የብዜትን ምልክት መወሰን እንችላለን። ብዜቱ ወይ ፖዚቲቭ ነው ወይ ኔጌቲቭ ነው ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ይህንን ነገር በደንብ ማስተዋል ይጠበቅብናል ማለት ነው። The product of two rational number, product of numerators and product of denominators. So we can use this rule according to the previous rule. We can decide also the product of the factors. The sign fact, the product of the sign of the factors can determine the product, the sign of the product of the two given numbers. ስለዚህ እነዚህን ብዜቶች ጠንቅቀን ማወቅ አለብን። መጀመሪያ ቁጥሮቹን ፖዚቲቭ ወይም ኔጌቲቭ የሆኑትን እናበዛለን። ቀጥለን እነሱ ቁጥሮቹን ደግሞ ከምልክቱ ነፃ አድርገን እንደ አብሶሉት ቫልዩስ እንደከተትን አድርገን ከዛ የምናገኘው ውጤት የምልክቱ ወይም የብዜቱ ምልክት ይሆናል ማለት ነው። To multiply rational number, remember the rules of multiplying positive and negative numbers. ስለዚህ ምንድነው የምናደርገው? ማስታወስ ያለብን ቅድም ያየነውን የኔጌቲቭ እና የፖዚቲቭ ብዜቶችን ማየት አለብን። ነገር ግን ድግግሞሽ ቢኖር ለምሳሌ ሁለት ኔጌቲቭ ቢኖር ብዜት ላይ ብዜቶች ሁለት ኔጌቲቮች ቢሆኑ ብዜቶች ሶስት ኔጌቲቮች ቢሆኑ ብዜቶች አራት ኔጌቲቭ እንዲሁም አምስት ኔጌቲቭ ስድስት ኔጌቲቭ ቢሆኑ እንዴት ነው በቀላሉ የብዜቱን ምልክት ወይም ፖዚቲቭ ወይም ኔጌቲቭ ነው ብለን የምንወስነው ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ if the factors have the same sign ስለዚህ አንድ ፋክተሮቹ አንድ አይነት ምልክት ካላቸው for example ፖዚቲቭ ሊሆን ይችላል ወይንም ኔጌቲቭ ሊሆን ይችላል። so the product is always what positive ይሆናል ማለት ነው። now this statement is only used for two factors. If two factors have the same sign, negative or positive, the sign of the product is always what positive. If the factors have different sign, then the product is negative. Now here this statement is only used if there are two factors. If there are two factors, otherwise it will be different. The sign will be different. For example, we can count the negative in the factors. If there are three factors having three negatives, then the product of the three negative will be what? Negative. Like this we can decide. But here the statement only determines only for two factors having the same sign and having different sign. If two factors having the same sign, then the product is always positive. If the factors have different sign, the product is always negative. To multiply a fraction by a mixed number, follow this step. First, change the mixed number to the improper fraction as we did before, and multiply the numerators and multiply the denominator. Just simply use the rules and simplify. If needed, if your answer is greater than 1, you may want to write it as a mixed number. That means if the product is an improper fraction, so you can change into mixed number. That means if your answer is greater than 1, so you can change into a mixed number. So this is the way. ምን ያለን ነው ማለት ነው። እንደዚህ ድብልቅ ቁጥሮች ቢሰጠን መጀመሪያ ድብልቅ ቁጥሮችን ወደ ህገወጥ ክፍልፋይ እንቀይረዋለን። ቀጥለን በህጉ መሰረት ኒውመሬተሩን ወይም ታህቶቹን እናበዛለን። በመቀጠል ላዕሎቹን መጀመሪያ ላዕሎቹን እናበዛለን። በመቀጠል ታህቶቹን እናበዛለን። ከዛ ባለው መሰረት የሚቃለል ከሆነ ሲምፕሊፋይ በማድረግ መጨረሻ ላይ ቁጥሩ አስፈላጊ ከሆነ ዋጋው ከአንድ በላይ ከሆነ ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ኢምፕሮፐር ፍራክሽን ስለነበረ ወዴት እንቀይረዋለን? ወደ ድብልቅ ቁጥር እንቀይረዋለን ማለት ነው ፕሮዳክቱን። ስለዚህ በዚህ መልኩ ድብልቅ ቁጥሮችን ብዜት በዚህ መልኩ መመለስ እንችላለን ማለት ነው። For example, y is equal to 3 and 1/3 times 1/2. So to solve for y, first we have to change 3 and 3 1/3. This is a mixed number, so change into improper fraction ወይንም ወደ ህገወጥ ክፍልፋይ እንቀይረዋለን። 3 ጊዜ 3 9 ሲደመር 10 ሶስተኛ ይሆናል ማለት ነው። ጊዜ 1/2 ይሆናል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ይሄ 10/3 ሲባዛ 1/2 10/3 ጊዜ 1/2 አያችሁ። ይህንን ወደ ህገወጥ ክፍልፋይ ወይም ኢምፕሮፐር ፍራክሽን ቀይረነዋል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ በህጉ መሰረት ላዕሉን 10 ጊዜ 1 እናበዛለን፣ 3 ጊዜ 2 እናበዛለን ማለት ነው። so 10 times 1 10 3 times 2 is 6 so 10/6 is an improper fraction, so we can reduce into the lowest term. So 10/6 is a multiple of 2, so 10/2 is 5, 6/2 is 3, so the equivalent lowest term of 10/6 is 5/3. Now still it is an improper fraction, so we can change this improper fraction into mixed number, and we can decide as 1 and 2/3 is a mixed number, and which can be a product of 3 and 1/3 and 1/2. So this is the procedure to decide the product of 3 and 1/3 and 1/2. To multiply two mixed number, follow this step. If the two factors are mixed number, what we'll do? First, change each mixed number to an improper fraction. Multiply the numerators, multiply the denominators, and finally simplify. Then if needed, you may want to write your answer as a mixed number if it is possible. So ምን እያለን ነው ማለት ነው? ሁለቱም ተባዦች ድብልቅ ቁጥሮች ቢሆኑ ምንድነው የምናደርገው? ስለዚህ መጀመሪያ ድብልቅ ቁጥሮቹን ወደ ህገወጥ ክፍልፋይ እንቀይራለን። ሁለተኛ ላዕሎቹን እናበዛለን፣ ቀጥለን ታህቱን እናበዛለን በህጉ መሰረት። ከዛ የሚቃለል ከሆነ ወደ ሎስት ተርም ምናምን እንቀይራለን ማለት ነው በማቃለል። በመጨረሻም አስፈላጊ ሆኖ ከተገኘ ህገወጥ ክፍልፋዩን ወደ ድብልቅ ቁጥር ቀይረን ውጤቱን ማሳየት እንችላለን ማለት ነው። For example, if y is equal to 3 and 1/3 times 2 and 1/2. Now the two factors are a mixed number. So according to our discussion, first try to change the mixed number into improper fraction. So 3 times 3, 9 plus 1 is 10/3. The second one is 2 times 2 plus 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5/2. An equivalent improper fraction for 3 and 1/3 is 10/3. And an equivalent fraction of mixed number of 2.5 is 5/2. Now, based on the rule, try to multiply the numerators and denominators. So if we multiply 10 times 5 is 50, 3 times 2 is 6, so 50/6 is the highest term of 25/3. We can reduce it, means we simplify, and to get 25/3, 25/3 is an improper fraction. So we can change this improper fraction into a mixed number. So the equivalent mixed number is 8/8. 8 and 1/3 is the value. So 25/3 is an improper fraction. To change into mixed number, so 24 plus 1/3. That means here we can take a number which is a multiple of 3 is 24 plus 1 is 25. So 24/3 plus 1/3, 24/3 is 8, 8 plus 1/3. So finally the mixed number is 8 and 1/3. So this is the way how to determine the product of two mixed numbers. ስለዚህ ሁለት ድብልቅ ቁጥሮች ቢሆኑ ፋክተሮቹ ማለት ነው። መጀመሪያ የምናደርገው ድብልቅ ቁጥሮቹን ወደ ህገወጥ ክፍልፋይ በምንቀይርበት መንገድ እንቀይርና ላዕልና ታህታቸውን በማብዛት በህጉ መሰረት ቁጥሩን እናሳያለን። ከዛ የሚቃለል ደግሞ ከሆነ ወደ ዝቅተኛ ቃል በመቀየር መጨረሻ ላይ እሱን መልሰን ወደ ድብልቅ ቁጥር ህገወጥ ክፍልፋዩን ወደ ድብልቅ ቁጥር በመቀየር ብዜቱን ማሳየት እንችላለን ማለት ነው። The product of two rational numbers with different sign can be determined in 3 steps. The product of two rational numbers with different sign can be determined in 3 steps. That means if the two factors have different sign, that means if one is positive and if the other one is negative, if one is positive, if the other is negative, so we can use the following step. First, decide the sign of the product is always what? Negative. ስለዚህ አያችሁ ፖዚቲቭ ኔጌቲቭ ቢሆን ቢባዙ ሁልጊዜ ኔጌቲቭ ነው፣ ወይም የመጀመሪያው ኔጌቲቭ ቀጥሎ ፖዚቲቭ ቢሆንም ስለዚህ ምን ጊዜም የፕሮዳክቱ የብዜቱ ምልክት ሁሌ ኔጌቲቭ ነው ማለት ነው። Then take the product of the absolute value of the numbers. Then finally put the sign in front of the product. The sign will be what? The negative sign. Note, to get the product with 3 or more factors, we use the following properties. The product of an even number of negative factor is positive. Now, please put in your mind this. The product of an even number of negative. If we can count the negative of the factors which are even, always the product is positive. Second, if the product of an odd number negative factor, then it is negative. The product will be what? Negative. So if we count the number of negative, and if it is odd, then the product will be negative. If it is even, the product will be positive. The product of a rational number with at least one factor 0 is always 0. If one factor of a number is 0, and to determine the product will be always what? 0. እዚህ ጋር ምንድነው የሚለን ማለት ነው? ለምሳሌ ከሶስት ኔጌቲቮች ኢቨን ነምበር፣ ኢቨን ማለት ለሁለት ተካፋይ የሆኑ ቁጥሮች ማለት ነው። 2 4 6 8 ከሆኑ ማለት ብዜቶቹ ወይም አብዢዎቹ ያላቸው ምልክት የኔጌቲቭ ምልክት ኢቨን ነምበር ከሆነ ስንቆጥረው ምን ጊዜም ምንም መጠራጠር አይጠበቅብንም። ቁጥሮቹን ካበዛም በኋላ ፕሮዳክቱ ላይ ብዜቱን ፖዚቲቭ እናደርጋለን ማለት ነው። በመቀጠል ደግሞ ስንቆጥረው ኔጌቲቭ ብዛቱን ኦድ ከሆነብን ጎዶሎ ቁጥር ለማለት ነው። ኦድ ማለት እንደ 1 3 5 7 ከሆነ ደግሞ ምን ጊዜም ፕሮዳክቱ ሁሌ ኔጌቲቭ ይሆናል ማለት ነው። በሶስተኛ ደረጃ ማንኛውም ቁጥር ከዜሮ ጋር አንደኛው አብዢ ማለት ነው፣ አንደኛው አብዢ 0 ከሆነ ምን ጊዜም የብዜቱ ዋጋ 0 ይሆናል ማለት ነው። Now based on this issue, try to follow this table. The table below shows us that there is a pattern when multiplying by a certain amount of negative integer. Now look this table. If the numbers, now look, number of negatives in the factors, if there is 0 negative, always, for example here 1 times 1, there is no negative here, always the outcome, that means the sign of the product will be what? Positive. Now look, this is 1 is odd, so if one of the factor is negative, always the product will be what? Negative. Here 2 even. Now before we discuss, if the negative number is even and if the negative number is odd, for example 1 is odd, so the outcome will be what? Negative. If there are 2 negative, that means even number, so the outcome will be what? Positive. That means negative times negative is positive. And we can observe the green color is positive. Look, positive. The positive determines for all even numbers 0, 2, 4 and 6 positive. But for odd number of negative 1, 3, 5 and the product will be what? Negative. So you can use this rule to decide the sign of the product. So this is always true. Multiply the sign and the number. Okay, now example, how can we decide the sign of the product? So first multiply the sign and next multiply the numbers, and finally we can decide the product easily. For example, 3 times negative 4. Now take the sign of the two factors here. 3 means plus 3, and here also use as it is plus, plus and plus. The two signs are positive. This is wrong way of writing, so this is a mistake. So the correct one is plus 4. Take the sign first, plus, plus, and the absolute value of 3 and 4. 3 times 4. Positive times positive, we can decide as it is positive. 3 times 4 is 12. So plus 12 means positive 12. So this is the way how to decide the result of the product. አሁን እዚህ ጋር ምንድነው ያሳየን? 3 ጊዜ 4 ብለን እንሰደው። እቺ ኔጌቲቭ እንዳልተጻፈች ቁጥሯ ስህተት ነው። 3 ጊዜ 4፣ ስለዚህ 3 ፖዚቲቭ ነች ብለን እንሰድ፣ 4ም ፖዚቲቭ ነች ብለን እንሰድ። ይሄ ስህተት ነው ብለናል። ስለዚህ መጀመሪያ ምልክቱን እንወስዳለን። ሳይኑን ፕላስ ፕላስ ይላል። ፕላስ ፕላስ ከወሰድን በኋላ ቀጥለን ደግሞ ማን እናበዛለን ማለት ነው? ቁጥሮቹን እንወስዳለን። ቁጥሮቹ ደግሞ 3 እና 4 ናቸው። ስለዚህ መጀመሪያ ሳይኑን ስናበዛ ፖዚቲቭ ታይምስ ፖዚቲቭ ፖዚቲቭ ይሰጠናል። 3 ታይምስ 4 ደግሞ 12 ይሰጠናል። ስለዚህ this is positive 12 plus 12 means which is equivalent to 12። ስለዚህ ፖዚቲቭ ሲደመር 12 ማለት በውስጥ አዋቂነት 12 እንደማለት ነው። በዚህ መልኩ የብዜትን ማሳየት እንችላለን ማለት ነው። Here 3 times negative 4. Now this one is plus. Put in your mind this is plus sign and this is negative. Now 3 means plus 3, and first take the sign product. Plus from 3, negative is from 4, and multiply the number without sign. Positive times negative is negative. 3 times 4 is 12. Now the product of 3 and negative 4 is what? Negative 12. So during multiplication, first we can take the sign of the factors and decide the sign of the product. So this is the way how to determine. Now the two factors are negative. We discussed before. There are 2 negative, 2 is even, 1 is odd. That is why it is negative. For even, it is always positive. Then negative times negative is positive. 3 times 4 is 12. So there are 2 negative. 2 negative means 2 is even. For all even numbers, for all even negative numbers, so the product will be always positive. Here also negative, negative, negative. The 3 factors are negative. So take the sign first, negative, 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 and multiply the numbers without the sign. So finally we can simplify. 3 by 3 will be cancelled. This is 1 times 1 over 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 2 is 8. There are 3 negative. It's odd negative number. So the product will be what? Negative. So negative 1 over 8. So finally we can decide the product as negative 1 over 8. So this is the way how to decide the multiple of the sign of the two factor having the same sign or different sign. Therefore, if 2 negative, that means even, always positive. If 3 negative here, because 3 is odd or odd negative number, we can decide negative. The product will be what? Negative. the properties of multiplication of rational number. The first one is closure property. Closure property. The second one is commutative property. The third one is associative property. The fourth one is distributive property. The fifth one is multiplication by zero. And the sixth one is multiplicative identity. So these are the properties of multiplication on the set of rational number. What do you mean by closure? What do you mean by commutativity? What do you mean by associative property, distributive property, and multiplication by zero and multiplicative identity? Let's discuss. Closure property. Closure property means if A over B and C over D are rational number or integers are from the set of rational number, then A over B times C over D is a rational number. So that means ምን እያለ ነው? ሁለቱ ብዜቶች ሁለቱ ተባዢዎች ማለት ነው። ሁለቱ ፋክተሮች ራሽናል ነምበር ወይም ኢንቲጀርም ቢሆኑ ራሽናል ነምበር ቢሆኑ for example here having integers also a rational number, then their product also from the set of rational number. ስለዚህ አያችሁ ሁለቱ ክፍልፋዮች ወይም ሁለቱ ራሽናል ነምበሮች ተባዝተው ውጤታቸው ብዜታቸው ማለት ነው በህጉ መሰረት ላልና ታህትን ስናበዛ የምናገኘው ቁጥር ምን ጊዜም ራሽናል ነምበር ነው የሚሆነው ማለት ነው። ከዛ ውጪ ቢሆን ክሎዥር ፕሮፐርቲን አያሟላም። ግን ምን ጊዜም ውጤቱ ብዜታቸው ደግሞ ምን ጊዜም ከራሽናል ነምበር ስለሚሆን ክሎዥር ፕሮፐርቲን ያሟላል ብለን እንወስዳለን ማለት ነው። For example, if A over B is an element of integer, C over D is an element of integer, A over B and C over D is an element of integer. Or if A over B is an element of rational number, C over D is an element of rational number, that means Q. Now this is for integer. We can also use Q. Then finally their product also from the element of rational number, because integer is an element of rational number. So we can say this is a closure property. ያሟላል ማለት ነው። Commutative property. If A over B and C over D is a rational number, we know how to use a commutative property. A over B times C over D is M1, C over D and A over B. We just simply rearrange the position of the two factors and we can get M2. If M1 and M2 are equal, that means A over B times C over D, which is equivalent to C over D times A over B, then we can say this is a commutative property. So this is always true. Associative property. Let A over B, C over D and E over F are rational number, then this is the associative property. የተጣማጅ ባህሪ ብለን የምንጠራው ነው ማለት ነው። በማብዛት በመደመር ላይ የተናል የማብዛት የተጣማጅ ባህሪም አለ ማለት ነው። እዚህ ጋር የመጀመሪያው ቅንፍ C over D እና A over Fን ይዘዋል። ሁለተኛው ቅንፍ ደግሞ A over B እና C over Dን ይዘዋል። ግን ስሌቱ ግን ማብዛት ነው። ስለዚህ ይሄ በግራም በኩል በቀኝም በኩል ያለው ሁሉ ጊዜ እኩል ነው ማለት። ስለዚህ ይህ የአሶሺዬቲቭ ፕሮፐርቲ ተብሎ ይጠራል። ይሄ ደግሞ ሁሉ ጊዜ እውነት ነው ማለት ነው። ዲስትሪቢዩቲቭ ፕሮፐርቲ if A over B, C over D and E over F are rational number, distributive property is said to be this. So distributive የስርጭት ባህሪ ብለን የምንጠራው ነው። A over B እንደ ኮመን ፋክተር ታገለግላለች። A over B ቅንፍ ውስጥ ያሉትን ሁለቱም ክፍልፋዮች ታበዛለች ማለት ነው። A over B times C over D እንዲሁም A over B times E over F ይሆናል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ በዚህ መልኩ እንመልሳለን ማለት ነው። ይህ የምታዩት የዲስትሪቢዩቲቭ ፕሮፐርቲ መግለጫ ነው ማለት ነው። multiplication by zero in general, if A over B as a rational number, then if A over B times 0, always it is 0. ማንኛውም ቁጥር በዜሮ ብናበዛው ውጤቱ ወይም ብዜቱ እንደሚሆነው 0 ነው ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ይሄ multiplication by 0 የሚለውን ህግ ያሟላልናል ማለት ነው። multiplicative identity የምንለው ደግሞ on multiplying any integer or any rational number by 1 the result obtained is the rational number itself። ስለዚህ ማንኛውም ቁጥር በአንድ ብናበዛው ስለዚህ ብዜቱ ራሱን መጀመሪያ የተሰጠን ቁጥር ነው ማለት ነው። in general if a over b is a rational number then if we multiply a over b by 1 so the result will be the number itself. so this property is said to be multiplicative identity ብለን እንጠራታለን። ስለዚህ እቺን አንድ ምን ብለን እንጠራታለን ማለት ነው? therefore 1 is a multiplicative identity of rational number ብለን እንጠራታለን ማለት ነው። therefore 1 is a multiplicative identity of rational number. example 1 2 over third is an element of rational number, 1 over 4 is an element of rational number, so their product is 2 over 12. so 2 over 12 when we change into lowest term is 1 over 6, so 1 over 6 is an element of a rational number. so this property is said to be closure property. The second one is 2 over third times 1 over 4, so just by observing this property is said to be the commutative properties of multiplication. so always when we multiply the both side we can get 2 over 12 or 2 over 12 with the highest term. The lowest term will be what? 1 over 6. This is the commutative property. This is the associative properties of multiplication. Then when we solve for right side and when we solve for the left side we can get the same result. For example, for the first one we can use multiplication rule and we can solve it here like this. So this is 2 times 3, 1 times 3, 4 times 5, second 2 times 1, 3 times 4, 3 times 5, 3 over 5. so it will be 2 over third times this is 3 over 20, which is equivalent to 2 times 3, and this is 12 times 5. Finally we can compare the result of the right and the result of the left. Finally we can get the same result as 60 over 6 over 60 and 6 over 60. The right side and the left side are equal. Therefore we can say this property is said to be associative property. ስለዚህ እዚህ ጋር ምንድነው ያየነው ማለት ነው? መጀመሪያ ላይ ክሎዠሪቲ ያየነው። ስለዚህ ሁሉም ክፍልፋዮች ከራሽናል ነምበር ሆኖ ሁለቱ ሲባዙ ብዜቱ ራሱ የራሽናል ነምበር አባል ከሆነ ክሎዠር ፕሮፐርቲን ያሟላል ብለናል። እዚህ ጋር ደግሞ የማብዛት የቅይር ባህሪን በግራም በቀኝም ያገኘነው ቁጥር እኩል ስለሆነ ወደ ዝቅተኛ ቃል መቀየር እንችላለን። ይሄ የማብዛት የቅይር ባህሪ ብለን እንጠራለን። ይሄ ደግሞ የማብዛት የተጣማጅ ባህሪን ይሄም በግራም በኩል ያለውን በቀኝ በኩል ያለው ስናሰላ ያገኘነው ቁጥር 6/60ኛ ይላል። ስለዚህ ይሄም እውነት ነው ማለት ነው። ይሄ አሶሺዬቲቭ ፕሮፐርቲ ብለን እንጠራዋለን ማለት ነው። so this one is distributive property የማብዛት የስርጭት ባህሪ ብለን እንጠራው ነው። ስለዚህ ይሄ 2/3ኛ በቅንፍ ውስጥ ያለውን ሁለቱንም ለየብቻ ያበዛል ማለት ነው። ለጊዜ 3 2 over 3 times 1 over 4 plus 2 over 3 times 3 over 5. so when we solve the right side this is crisscross 5 times 1 4 times 3 12 4 times 5 is 20. Here 2 times 1 3 times 4. Here also we can solve 2 times 5 10, 3 times 3 is 9. so this will be what? 2 over 3. This will be 2 times 1 3 times 4 is 12, 2 times 3 3 times 5. so finally 2 over 3 times this is 17 over 20, which is equivalent to 2 times 1 is 2, 4 times 3 is 12 plus 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 5 is 15. Then finally we can get the result as the right side is 34 over 16 and the left side also 34 over 16. That means the distributive properties. So this is a distributive properties of multiplication. This is always true. The last one is 2 over 3 times 0, 0 times 2 over 3. This is a commutative property, but if we multiply any rational number by 0, the result will be 0. So this property is said to be multiplication by 0. And this is multiplicative identity. If a given rational number is multiplied by 1, the result will be the number itself. So this is a multiplicative identity. ስለዚህ እዚህ ጋር ማንኛውም ቁጥር በ0 ብናበዛው ውጤቱ 0 ነው። ማንኛውም ቁጥር ደግሞ በ1 ብናበዛው ውጤታችን ራሱ የተሰጠን ቁጥር ነው ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ ይህ መልቲፕሊኬቲቭ አይደንቲቲ ብለን እንጠራዋለን ማለት ነው። Solving the product by using grid model. Find the product of 0.2 and 0.5. So what do you mean by grid model? So by using grid model, how can we determine the product of 0.2 and 0.5? Now look this table. Now 0.2 times 0.5 means 0.2 means 2 over 10. This is 0.5 means 5 over 10. So this is a decimal, this is a fractional value, an equivalent fractional value. So what do you mean 2 over 10 or 5 over 10? Try to determine on the table. That means when according to the rule, the product will be what? 2 times 5 over 10 times 10. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 times 10 is 100. The result will be 0.1. Before that, we can use the grid model. So we can use 100 squares by 10 times 10. Now here, when we count, there are 100 squares in this picture. So that means 10 times 10 is this line, the vertical one is 10, the horizontal is 10. When we multiply 10 by 10, as the number of the cube is 100, then try to determine 2 over 10. 2 over 10 means the blue one determines 2 over 10. Here you can see this is 2 over 10. ስለዚህ እዚህ ጋር 2 10ኛን ስናሳይ ከዚህ ውስጥ 2ን ወስደን ወደታች እንቀባለን ማለት ነው። ሙሉ ለሙሉ ብሉ ነው የሚቀባው ማለት ነው። እንደገና 5 10ኛ የሚለን ነው። በታች በኩል ደግሞ 5 ያሳየናል። 5 10ኛ ስንወስድ ይሄ 50 ነው። 5 10ኛ ይሄ 2 10ኛ 20 ዩኒት ይወስዳል ማለት ነው። በፐርሰንት ብናሰላው እንደዛ ነው የሚሆነው። ስለዚህ በግሪድ ሞዴል በዚህ መልኩ ካሳየን በኋላ ግን ብዜታቸውን ግን የምናሳየው 10 መቶኛ ነው። 10 የምትለው ሁለት 10ኛና 5 10ኛን ያሳየንበት የቀባ ነው የጋራ የሆነው ይሄኛው ማለት ነው። 2 times 5 የሚለው 10 የሚያሳየን እዚህ ጋር ነው። ብንቆጥራቸው 10 ስኩዌሮች ይታዩናል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ በዚህ መልኩ ይህ 0.1ን ይወክላል ማለት ነው። 1 over 10 ማለት ነው ውጤቱ። ስለዚህ 1 over 10 or 1 over 10 means 0 በ0 ካንሰል ስለሚደረግ ነው 0.1። ስለዚህ እቺ የምታዩት የ10 መቶኛ ወይም 0.1 ቫልዩ ነች ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ በግሪድ ሞዴል በዚህ መልኩ የብዜትን የሁለት ክፍልፋዮችን ብዜት ማሳየት እንችላለን ማለት ነው። Note: the product of two integers or rational number with the same sign is always positive. That means positive times positive is positive, negative times negative is positive. Second, the product of the two integers with different sign is negative, integer or rational number. The product of two integers or rational number with different sign is negative. That means if it is negative times positive is negative, positive times negative is negative. This is always true. We discussed before also. Revision. Let A, B, and C are rational number. A times B, which is equivalent to C, then A and B are factors, and C is said to be product. So we can call A and B are the factors of C. So like this, we can call the value of A, B, and C. A is factor, B is factor, C is product. Let A over B and C over D are rational number. A over B times C over D. To show the product of the two fractions, multiply the numerators first and second multiply the denominators, but the denominator must be different from 0. Assign product. Before deciding the product, first we have to decide the sign of the factors. So positive times negative is negative, positive times positive is positive, negative times negative is always positive. So by using this rule, it is too easy to answer the question. The property of multiplication of rational number. The first one is closure property. If the two products are from the set of integers or from the set of rational number, so their product also from the set of integer or from the set of rational number. This property is said to be closure property. The second one is commutative property. የማብዛት የቅይር ባህሪ ብለን የምንጠራው ይሄ በዚህ መልኩ መግለጽ እንችላለን ማለት ነው። አሶሲዬቲቭ ፕሮፐርቲ ደግሞ የማብዛት የተጣማጅ ባህሪ ብለን የምናየው ደግሞ በዚህ መልኩ መጻፍ እንደምንችል አይተን ነበር ማለት ነው። ዲስትሪቢዩቲቭ ፕሮፐርቲ የስርጭት ባህሪ የምንለው ኤ ኦቨር ቢ እንደ ፋክተር አገልግላ እንደ ኮመን ፋክተር አገልግላ በቅንፍ ውስጥ ያሉትን ስታበዛ ይሄ ምን ተብሎ ይጠራል? ዲስትሪቢዩቲቭ ፕሮፐርቲ የማብዛት የስርጭት ባህሪ ብለን የምንጠራው ይሄ ነው ማለት ነው። ይሄንን በደንብ ማወቅ ይጠበቅብናል ማለት ነው። the next multiplication by 0 ስለዚህ ምንድነው multiplication by 0? የተሰጠንን ራሽናል ነምበር በዜሮ ብናበዛ ምን ጊዜም ብዜቱ 0 ይሆናል ማለት ነው። ስለዚህ በዚህ መልኩ መወሰን እንችላለን ማለት ነው። የመጨረሻው መልቲፕሊኬቲቭ አይደንቲቲ ነው። ምን ማለት ነው? ደግሞ የተሰጠን ራሽናል ነምበር በአንድ ቁጥር ብናበዛ ምን ጊዜም ፕሮዳክቱ ወይም ብዜቱ ራሱ ቁጥሩ ነው ማለት ነው። a over b times 1 always the result will be what? a over b. By this is the properties of multiplication. Question. Try to answer based on today's lesson. You have to practice this question to get the correct product of the given factors. Based on today's lesson, if you understood today's lesson, it is too easy to answer this question. List the properties of multiplication and find the product of 0.3 and 0.3, 0.7 by using grid model. Find the product of this mixed number. Question number 4. Determine the reciprocal of the given fraction. How can we solve the reciprocals of the numbers? So what do you mean by reciprocal? Then list the reciprocal of the product. First you have to find the product and finally try to determine the reciprocal of the given numbers. So number 6, find the product of 0.3 and 0.3 by 0.4 by using grid model also. So if you understood today's explanation, it is too easy to answer the question. So thank you for your attention and for your attention to listen this tutorial. Thank you. And if you have question and suggestion, please write on the comment section. write on the comment section. Thank you for you listening us. Please subscribe and share this video. Thank you.
Remembering myself, take me right back to the start.